It's science gone wrong. This is your look at the MEGO The Fly 8-inch action figure. Marty Abrams, aka the father of the action figure, has relaunched these figures in response to an overwhelming demand. MEGO Corporation was started by his father David Abrams in 1954 and named by his younger brother Howard, who would say MEGO too. Howard later became head of the sales of the company. MEGO Corporation sold over 20 million of its now standard 8-inch action figures worldwide, and MEGO Corporation is proud to take over that fine heritage today. I think we're going to be needing ourselves a big sheet of fly paper, because before we get a closer look at the fly, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. I ordered this one online, actually with a whole bunch of other MEGO releases, simply just because I can't find these locally. Sigh. Nonetheless, though, the fly stands 8.1 inches in height, switching that to centimeters, revealing that the figure is 20.7 centimeters tall. Yeah, I think all the figures I've actually been looking at lately have all been ones I had to order online, except for the exception that I'm bringing in right now, the hard-to-stand Hannibal Lecter. I think was the only one I actually found in store, but all the other ones, including the recently looked at Candyman from Farewell to the Flesh, were all ones I had to order online. So it did mean I had to pay a little bit more to get them, but I've been overall pretty happy with this line so far. Yes, they're all characters from different movies, and even really the Fly is part of the Legend horror line, so he's actually been older than all the others that we've had a look at. But I've really been getting a blast out of this line. It may have had also something to do with the fact that I collected MEGO as a kid, so living now vicariously through my adult self has been allowing me the opportunity to pick up these. Especially back then, we wouldn't have had horror-related MEGO characters, the likes of Candyman, the likes of Hannibal Lecter, the likes of Leatherface. So I'm really thrilled the fact that we are getting figures like this. Say what you want, and again, I understand completely that MEGO isn't for everybody, but the ones that are into collecting the MEGO figures, I myself have really been overall impressed with this line so far. So getting a good look at the Fly, as you can probably already see, he doesn't come with any accessories to speak of. Sad, really, because as a scientist, he could have probably come with a couple of vials, beakers, for example, things that he could have been experimenting with, but sadly he doesn't come with anything. I would have at least given him maybe one beaker, but I digress. Getting a closer look at the figure, I will say this, I'm going to pick the figure up to explain the following. When I did get this guy out of the packaging, I had real difficulty actually moving his arm, to the point where I couldn't get it past this point right, let's get it to about this point right here. And I thought something was wrong. So I forced it, probably against what I felt was my better judgment. And I forced it, and it sounded like I was going to a chiropractor, the amount of cracking that was coming out from actually his shoulders. I cracked it once, I cracked it twice, and I should have even stopped it right there. I cracked it a third time, and eventually his shoulders ended up being fine. I don't know really what the culprit was, and it's only really been this figure that's had this case happen. Something was really lodged in there. I don't know if it was just extra glue, it was something, but it involved me having to really force the arm, and at one point, I really sincerely thought that I had broken the figure, and I was really disappointed by that, only then to find out that it wasn't broken at all. Just somehow a very tight joint that needed to be loosened up. That being said, let's get a closer look at his head sculpt. Now, keeping in mind, this is the Fly from the original film, not the 80s remake with Jeff Goldblum. I love that movie. I would love to see a Brundle Fly actually get a MEGO release, but this is the original. And because of that, you'll get a Fly that, of course, is wearing a lab coat, a shirt, and a tie. Jeff Goldblum really wasn't wearing that in the remake. I do like the head sculpt quite a bit. You'll see that there are some spots that they put across the eyes. The eyes have also got two tones working for it. A lighter, almost lighter yellowish green on the inside, and then a darker green around the outer area, sort of airbrushed in. And then, of course, you've got those black spots across both lenses of the eyes. You can see also that there's his mouth. Nice silver done for both the teeth. And I guess these are teeth and the little fangs. You want to consider them fly fangs. On the bottom here, all painted nicely in silver. It's a good looking head sculpt if you dig the original source material, the original 50s fly, I think it was the 50s. Spin it around, you can see the back of it. Unfortunately, the back doesn't get any paint whatsoever. It's only really the front. The front sure gets dusting of silver. You can see it covers everything across the little flaps of skin on, I guess, his eyelids. Would that be bottom of his eyelids? I'm trying to go through the anatomy of a fly. It got the ridges, of course, right above the nose area as well. Again, I'm trying to describe it as a fly. But it's got all the necessary silver that's done on the front of it. I kind of wish, unfortunately, that the back would have had just as much effort. I guess you could use the argument that you're really never going to see it from the front or from the back. You're probably going to be more so displaying it like this. Who's really going to be displaying their figure, showing it from the back here? But as you can see, when it comes to his lab coat, for example, it essentially is just sort of a material I would describe as almost like a tea cloth. If you have one in your kitchen for drying off counters, it's sort of a very similar style of material. If you open this up, it's just actually closed by Velcro. You can see underneath that, there's the shirt, a striped tie, which is basically just glued in place. And even then, if we open things up, you can actually see the body of a MEGO figure underneath all that. I guess you could really use the argument as well that he has a muscular body, something that he would have inhabited or inherited when he turned himself into part fly. He's got a nice six-pack. Really, that's all that was necessary. I just had to be part fly to develop a six-pack like that. Making a mental note in the back of my head there. But let's close things up. One nice little touch on this particular fly as well is if you lift up the sleeve on one, you basically just get your traditional MEGO hand. There's nothing really different about that. Slightly shinier plastic, but still a very familiar looking MEGO hand. On the other hand, literally and figuratively, on the other hand, he sort of has this fly claw. Looks like a lobster claw. And it's neat. It doesn't have any articulation, so you can't open and close or anything like that. And it just hinges the exact same way as the other hand. But at least I'll give points to MEGO for doing something different, going outside the box and designing a mold that they probably can't use for anything else, unless there's a lobster character from another movie that they could probably use the same mold for. But it's only on this hand. Obviously, it's not on this hand right here. He's got blue pants. And similar, actually, we just recently had a look at the Candyman from Farewell to the Flesh. This fly has the same issue. Really loose shoes. I didn't lose any. Whew, that was good. I didn't lose any. That was fortunate for me. But unfortunately, the feet, the shoes, don't stay on the feet properly enough. Hannibal Lecter also had this issue as well, where the shoes were just really, really loose. Excessively loose. And it sort of does impact the figure when you're trying to get it to stand, because again, when you're putting it down, it just rocks in and out inside the very loose shoes that they've got on his feet. Let's get a look at the articulation on the fly. With all the other MEGO releases, it's the same here. It's pegged into place. There's no ball joint or anything like that working, so the head only just rotates all the way around. That's it. That's all it does. He has an upper torso ball joint, similar to all the other MEGO releases. And then, of course, now that I've taken the time and broken what I thought was the joint, he does have the articulation allowing the arms to bend at a full 90-degree angle bend. You can also move the arms forward. You can move the arms back. He has a swivel right at the top there, a single hinged elbow, and he does have just a single hinge on the hand. Same thing applies for his lobster hand. He's got a little hinge. You can move that back and forth like this. As for his lower legs, the legs split out. You can move the legs forward and back. Try not to drop the shoes. Try not to drop the shoes. He does have a bend at the knee, and then he has articulation in the foot. But all the while I'm doing this, I just know like his shoes barely are staying on there. So that will be something that's going to cause problems with the figure. I find comparing him to, say, Hannibal Lecter, this figure stands just a little bit better. Doesn't stand the greatest, and I think the biggest issue is the size of the shoes that they've put him in. But he stands, I think, better than Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter, of all the MEGOs that we've had a look at, seemed to have the biggest difficulty to stand. I still have that issue here with the fly, but just not to the extent, not to the extreme that Hannibal Lecter had. Going back to consult the 1958 classic fly in which the MEGO fly is based from, MEGO did take some luxuries, specifically when it comes to his human hand. I think in the movie he actually has a flesh-colored human hand, but ultimately they just resorted in using the same color of black that was the rest of the plastic in his body. So they sort of just cheaped out a little bit. I appreciate at least the fact that they did give him the claw hand on the other side, and overall the figure does come together quite well. Talking, of course, the 58 classic, I myself consider more the 80s fly to be a true classic, as one I've watched more, I feel, than the 50s fly. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MEGO not only gives us the fly, obviously, that we had a look at in this review, but they consider the idea of giving us the Jeff Goldblum fly as well from the 80s. I think that would translate to a really cool-looking MEGO release. But overall, I'm happy with how this one turned out. He does have the lab coat, the shirt, the tie, and he does have pretty good-looking tailored clothing. Just wish his shoes stayed on a little bit better than what they did. But let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of the MEGO fly from the 1958 classic. And as for your video question, what's your favorite transformation movie where a character turns into something? It doesn't have to be a fly. It could be a werewolf. It could be a vampire. Anything in which the character in the movie turns into something else. What's your favorite transformation movie? Of course, if you're also new to this channel and you're liking all the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting the subscribe button down below. You know, just in case you haven't done that already. Turn the bell notification on as a reminder to you and to YouTube of when new videos pop up. You'll get those friendly little 411s. And certainly I can also throw in a 411 for you, Jack. Can I call you Jack? Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you'll find new videos popping up. And you never know, we may also look at a few more other MEGO surprises underneath the Christmas tree, which I guess I probably should be throwing out now, as we are now really getting close to February. I really should be throwing that out. Funny thing is, I actually have an artificial tree, so I don't know why I'm throwing that out. Needless to say, guys, needless to say, there's lots of videos coming your way, so as always, keep your peepers peeled to this channel, and I'll see you guys next time.